So maybe we'll wait a few moments as people log on and join us. Wonderful. Well, I suppose this is also being recorded. So I can see people piling in on our end here. So maybe Amy, whenever you're ready, if you want to get us started, and then for those who kind of join later, we'll have this recorded afterwards if they want to revisit what they were missing at the beginning.
Sure, okay. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks to the panelists and to our attendees who are visiting the webinar today. I'm Amy Thurlow, and I'm chair of the Department of Communication Studies, which offers the Bachelor of Public Relations degree program. And I'm delighted to be joining some of our illustrious graduates, some of our alum here today, and PR practitioners blazing their own careers now out in the world with National Public Relations. So it's a real pleasure to be partnered with National Public Relations on this event. And really what we wanted to do today is just share with you a little bit of information about the program. I think in our audience today, we have some first-year students and some incoming students. We might also have some students who've been in the program for a while, and feel free to ask questions or share your comments as we go along as well. And I think we also might have some new people who are just wanting to find out a little bit about what public relations is and what the PR degree at MSVU is all about. So we're going to take you through a little bit of that information, and we're going to hear from our panelists about their careers in public relations and some of the work that they do. So I have, well, here's our Bachelor of Public Relations slide. Our slogan this year is "Become a New Kind of Relationship Expert." We thought it was kind of cute. We're talking about communicating with different audiences, and we're also doing a lot of talking in the last year or so. We've updated our program in the area of technology and digital communication, so it just kind of plays on that development for us. Thanks, Morgan. So I started the introduction by putting up here the definition of public relations, because I'm sure the panelists will remember when you first come into the BPR program, you come in usually in September, and you go home for the first weekend, or you're talking to folks after the first day of class, and they're like, okay, so what is public relations? And it is historically the toughest question for our new students, as they're trying to, well, it's kind of this and that. And as you'll see from the work that our panelists have been doing in their careers as well, it's a very diverse field. So that there are some core elements of the public relations profession that everyone will experience, but where you work, the clients you work with, the sector you work in, that can lead to very different and exciting careers that you wouldn't have thought of when you start your PR education. So this is the official definition of public relations: the strategic management of relations between organizations and their public. And you'll see in this definition as well that we're really highlighting mutual understanding and work that serves the public interest, which I think is so important. And it's sort of the other challenging story that new public relations students are dealing with, is that sometimes PR gets a bad rap out there in the media, and especially in TV programs, or anything to do with the White House, or anything in the media right now. There's a lot of spin, as it's called, and sometimes public relations is painted in a less than authentic way. And so we want to be really clear with our educational program, and certainly our graduates are the best example of what good public relations should be. But public relations done correctly and done well is all about the public good. It's about advocacy. You see in the sidebar there, our students are advocates in many roles for many organizations. It's about leadership. whether you're doing event planning or crisis communicating. And actually, a number of our grads have told us in the last few months, when the COVID-19 crisis, the role of public relations has become even more important. And ethical communication is the core of that. And it's also very innovative. So social media, technology, communicating with audiences that otherwise wouldn't be receiving important information. So I put that definition out there. If you are coming into the program new, this will be on your exam at Christmas time, the first year course. If you've completed that course, you know it probably was. So there you go. We'll give out the answer right off the bat. And I just threw in a few statistics down here at the bottom of some of the success our grads are having. We have a very successful co-op education component to our program. And we survey those graduates every year. And we have, in the last year's survey, 91% of our grads were employed in the field within a year after graduation. And they really credit 12 months of paid PR work experience before graduation. That would be the work term, as having them, given them a foot in the door for that success. So this is kind of a graph of our program. As I mentioned at the beginning of my introduction, public relations is a really diverse field. So the MSVU BPR is unique. We were the first BPR program in Canada, and we've always maintained that we're a generalist program, which means you can learn the foundational skills of public relations and apply those skills in whatever area of PR you choose to pursue. That being said, we've developed some streams, what we call streams in the program, where there's areas of focus. So if you come into the PR program and you have a passion for health communication, there's some courses that you can take within the program that everyone can take. You can focus on those. You can take a minor in a related area. And you can tailor your work terms in that area so that you come out with a health communication stream, for example. We're seeing a lot of interest in an advocacy stream. So students who want to work with NGOs when they graduate, or nonprofit leadership area, there's a minor in that now available, or working in a community environment. I'm jumping around here a bit, but we also have the management stream, which is probably our oldest. That's probably our original stream, so public relations management. And then our new technology stream, which we just started last year, where we've added some courses to complement the social media aspect and digital communication of what we teach. Yeah, so there's certainly lots of options. Thank you. Okay, so thanks, Morgan, for moving through that introduction for me. It's my pleasure now to turn over the session to our panelists, and I'm very happy to introduce Ashley Hirschman, Andrew Blanchette, and Morgan Atwater, who are all alum of our program, and we're very proud to see them in their career environment. And I'd also like to thank Emma Cochran, who's also from National Public Relations, on the session with us today. And without further ado from me, I'm going to turn it over to the people who know about the real world experience of PR and let them share that with you.
Well, thank you very much, Amy. And I can say we definitely wouldn't be here without you. So my name is Ashley Hirschman. I'm a senior consultant digital at National Public Relations. So I graduated my BPR in 2010. So when Amy talks about the oldest stream of PR, that was definitely the stream that I went down. So as I said, I graduated in 2010. I started out at a nonprofit as a communications coordinator, doing all of the things that you will learn about through the degree. And then I decided to learn what this crazy world of digital was all about. So I started working for a small web development shop as an account coordinator. So being the liaison between clients and the web developers, helping organizations discover what their goals of their website needed to be, and then working through with the team to actually deliver on that. And then I joined the national team over 4 years ago in really the same vein. So I now work with clients both on web projects as well as integrated marketing campaigns. So discovering what it is the objective of those of the business is for that campaign, and then what pieces do we need to actually support that. So whether it be a website, whether it be a marketing campaign, which could be advocacy, it could be healthcare related, could just be brand awareness. Really depends on what the goal of that is. So I get the pleasure of working with folks such as Andrew and Morgan that you'll meet on the call, as well as many other of our team members as well. If you look us all up, there's lots of people at National that make things work. But I'm very excited to be here to talk to you all today, answer any questions that you may have all about how I got to where I am as well, because I definitely took one of those. I didn't have the background in digital. I was self-taught. I learned from a lot of very brilliant people and continue to learn from those very brilliant colleagues and people around myself as the world continues to change and evolve. And as we've seen, the world needs to continue to be more digital focused.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew, and I would, right at the top, I'll just echo Ashley's sentiments and thoughts about how instrumental the program was to getting to this stage. So certainly think that whether or not you're in the program or if you're thinking about going into it, I would certainly say it's a very valuable journey that will set you up for success. I graduated in 2014 BPR and used the co-op system to get exposure to as many different areas of public relations application as I could. So I'm sure you've heard a lot about that program and you might be involved in it, but certainly I would recommend using it to get exposure to areas that you may not even know that you have an interest in, or it may actually even actively be a bit apprehensive about going into it. I certainly did that and was able to get a breadth of experience and ended up in the agency world. So I did my last co-op of my degree with an agency focused on government relations and issues reputational risk out in Calgary, Alberta, of course, working with a lot of natural resource firms. Went there after I graduated, spent a couple of years there, came back to Halifax to work for National and worked on their public affairs team. So that's where I find myself today. I've been with National. It's my second stint. So I did just about 3 years, and then I went to Toronto to work for a firm out there. Spent a year and a half with the crisis team in Toronto and came back in January just before everything went crazy with COVID. So on the public affairs team, we spend a lot of our time dealing with issues, reputational risk, making sure that organizations are prepared for crises ahead of time, proactively. If they do happen, we help them navigate those waters. We deal a lot with government relations, which is making sure that we set up our clients to have the right conversations and communications with members of government to discuss things like policy. That runs, I think, that's a bit of the 101 of public affairs, but certainly an area of public relations where it's never a dull moment. Anything can happen. We do a lot of issues response. I work closely with the social intelligence team to make sure that we're able to quantify social media activity and traditional media activity when a crisis is unfolding for a client, to give them recommendations based on that. So it's a lot of fun, challenging work where we're allowed to permitted to collaborate with many different disciplines and many different areas of the business. So yeah, certainly thank you for having me on the panel. Excited to be here, and yeah, looking forward to answering your questions.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. Hello, everybody online. My name is Morgan Atwater, and I should flip the slide so you know a little bit about me. There we go. So that is me. I am a coordinator on the integrated marketing team. I joined National in September. So I actually joined National. That's when I chose to leave the Mount campus. I stayed on the Mount campus after graduation in 2018 for a little while. So I did a little bit of time down in the online learning department, actually. And then I spent just about a year with the Center for Women in Business, which is not far from the communications department, actually, in the McCain Center. And there I got to work with members. I got to do a lot of external relations, which was a really great opportunity and a great way to stay connected with the Mount once I finished my program. What drew me to public relations was a love for communications. So for as long as I can remember, I've been interested in writing. I love to do public speaking and just sharing information, and that's really how I see PR in my mind. So as Amy was talking about, I took the cooperative education route. So when I was a PR student, I did my co-op terms. My first one was not-for-profit, and I worked with the Canadian Mental Health Association. My second was with the federal government. So I did a term with Public Works and Government Services, actually when the department was being renamed Public Services and Procurement Canada. And then I did my last term with the Students' Union because I was elected to be a student union executive for a year. So I worked with the co-op department to kind of turn that into my last placement, which worked really well. Kind of similar to what Andrew was saying, for me, it was really important to stick my toe in 3 completely different pools so I could graduate with experience. And then after graduation, I ended up in agency, which was always a dream. I feel like you enter the PR program at the Mount, you hear national, and it's like, yep, that's where I want to end up. So that was my path. That was what brought me here today. And I dipped my toe in a lot of pools since then. And that's kind of what I really admire most about PR today, is the fact that when I'm logging into my computer for work from home now, I suppose, with the times, I could be touching pieces of work that are across 5 or 6 different industries, organizations, all in one day. And I think that's pretty cool. Never a dull moment. We're never bored. There's always something to be excited about or looking forward to. So that's really why I am excited to have my education and now career in public relations. And we'll move right on. Ashley, if you want to take us through this slide.
Yeah, so just for those of you who don't know who National Public Relations is, so we are an Avenir global company, which ranks among the top 15 worldwide agencies. So we have over 1,000 employees in 25 markets across North America, Europe, Middle East, and 17 offices across Canada, the United States, and Europe. We are in the Atlantic region. We are a group of about 50. So we have offices here in Halifax, St. John's, Newfoundland, and St. John, New Brunswick. So we are very fortunate to work with exceptional colleagues across the Atlantic provinces on a variety of files.
Andrew, if you want to walk us through this one.
Sure, yeah. As Ashley touched upon, we have, especially here in Atlantic, we have representation, Newfoundland, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia, which gives us a great opportunity to know the region. We're passionate about our approach to this region. We often say that this is somewhere where a great deal of us have a diverse set of experience or come from different areas of the country or the world, or practice in different areas of the country to the world, but choose to make it our home here because of how passionate we are about Nova Scotia and the region. So that's a big part of the work we do and a big part of our mantra. We are high functioning nerds. It's a funny line, which we are. I think we all share a common passion of really getting into the work that comes across our desk in a way that is a little bit, it can be in depth at times, but it is part of who we are. I think it's part of our culture, and we know that the people that we're working with and collaborating with are equally invested in the projects and the clients that we're working for, which makes for a better work, and is one of the beautiful things about this type of work that we do. Love big data, yeah, for sure, to an extent. That's something that caveat's an interesting thing. I think digital and data-driven public relations and communications is something that has seen a flurry of adoption and certainly application in the practice and in the industry over the past number of years. We're starting to certainly adapt how we do that and how we apply data in ways that are not only morally upholding, but also ways that end up getting the best results. So certainly something that we pride ourselves on. The audiences come first is an interesting one. I think that's just an approach and a mindset that we take to all of the work we do, whether it's digital, whether it's integrated marketing, or whether it's public affairs. I think we certainly, just a foundational element to the work we do is to identify who our clients are trying to speak to, who they're trying to communicate with, who their stakeholders are, and the responsibility that they have to those groups. Yeah, so just a little bit about our ethos as an organization.
Awesome, thanks, Andrew. And last, I thought it would be valuable to walk you through our service offerings. So on any given day, we could be working on some of these, all of these, a couple of these. I'm sure Ashley and Andrew can attest to this. So I won't read these off all entirely, but so advocacy, something we talked about. That's definitely work that we see come through our office often. A lot of branding work. There's issues in crisis there, which Andrew is heavily involved in. We do things like providing support with employee engagement, journey mapping, paid media strategies, data and insights, video production, marketing, communications. This is definitely not an all-inclusive list, but gives you an idea of the types of services we offer to companies, organizations. Case studies. Ashley, I do believe, yes, you are first. So now we thought we would take a little bit of time. You know, we can tell you about our service offerings and the work that we're doing on any given day, but we thought it'd be really valuable to show you some of that work in real life. So I'm going to pass it over to Ashley, who's going to walk us through the first case study.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Morgan. So we recently had the great pleasure of working with the government of New Brunswick on a Pride of Place campaign. So if any of you are located in New Brunswick, or you may have seen these on social media anyway, this was a campaign that we put together with the government to really look at inspiring New Brunswickers with that Pride of Place. As we all know, restrictions have since lifted and continue to lift with COVID, but when we pre-Atlantic bubble, when we were all staying within our own provinces, this was more important than ever. So this was a phased campaign. So the first phase was to inspire. So it's hope restored, instilling a sense of pride and hope within New Brunswickers. And just because we can't see it now, you know, all those lovely places that we love to visit across our respective provinces doesn't mean it's always there. So New Brunswick is here, it's in our hearts and waiting always. So the next slide was just a quick example of a few of the ads that ran. So we did both traditional, so print media, as well as digital media. So this campaign was really, it was speaking to New Brunswickers because it was that pride of place, that sense of, you know, we love our province, we want to stay here, we will get out to see you whenever we're allowed to, but just putting that hope in people's minds that they will be able to get out and actually see their beautiful province. So this phase of the campaign received really great feedback and pickup. It was one of those that got a lot of shares and a lot of engagement on social and in traditional media. So as I said, we did traditional, we did some newsprint, we did some digital advertising, it was organic and paid social as well. And then as we think about phase two, it was, as restrictions started to lift, it was really getting New Brunswickers out and about. So where will you go first? So thinking of that idea of the future travel. So we're all inside. The only thing we can do is plan our escape. So it's where do you want to go first? So think of all those beautiful places you've seen, the beautiful places that you've yet to see, but building a campaign that encourages people to start looking forward. So reflecting on what you miss most and consider what you'll do first whenever you're given the chance. So Morgan, if you can scroll down, so we built a landing page, so a website. It might actually not work, but if you go to nbalways.ca, this was the landing page. I was hoping we could scroll down to be able to see the rest of the landing page, but so we built a website that really spoke to this. So being able to plan the adventure, being able to tag using hashtags on social media so that we could gather all of those pieces together. And you'll see a little map that's on the screen too of the map of New Brunswick, those little hearts all over it. So the places that people love the most, going there and putting a little pin on it. So if you do check out that website, this was a campaign that was done both in English and French, New Brunswick being a bilingual province. And it really was one of those campaigns that really hit home and spoke to the heart and did instill that sense of pride. So we continue to be in market with this. So if you take a peek, you'll continue to see this out in the world, but continues to get lots of engagement from both operators and New Brunswickers. And now as we see the Atlantic bubble opening up next weekend, end. I personally am very excited for this. We will start to see residents of the other maritime provinces be looking at this and seeing, if you always take word of mouth from someone as a, if they want to go there and they live there, well, then I should go there too. So it is that word of mouth then starts to expand out.
All right, so yeah, I wanted to talk about, so crisis and issues case studies sometimes are a little bit tougher because the ones that are the most exciting and interesting are also the ones that usually we can't talk about, of course, in great depth, specifically in terms of the clients involved, just because of the confidentiality that we hold with these types of files. But one area that I did want to shed some light on, specifically in terms of the actual crisis and issues that we're seeing and facing, and the details involved, are some of the data security and privacy space. So this is a really interesting part of the business as more and more organizations, virtually all organizations that have some sort of digital presence, start to store more and more records of personally identifiable information. Everything, especially Facebook, very much in the news over the past 48 hours or so about how they've chosen to, or they've decided to deal with private information. But all that to say, private information, personally identifiable information about you, if you have any sort of online presence, if you have a Zoom account, is held online by an organization. And with that comes an inherent level of risk, of course. So we've worked with organizations that have had data breaches, have had ransomware attacks that have compromised some of their information, and have helped them with the increasingly important communication side of an issue like that. So I've listed a few here, and I'll go over them quickly. So we helped a human resources company that had a ransomware attack a few years ago. A situation where an employee within that human resources company clicked a phishing link. I'm sure we've all seen this before. It's a link that's designed to look innocuous, but actually harvest credentials, and someone broke into their email account where they had, I think they ended up having like 30 seconds of access to the email inbox, but as determined 3 years ago or something like that, that email inbox had sent an attachment with private information. Once that's the case, even though you can kind of put two and two together and say it's virtually impossible or very unlikely that that person in their 30 seconds of access to this account before IT firewalls booted them out, that they were able to actually access this attachment from 3 years ago. The sheer fact that those two things are present, you have to go through the steps in the eyes of the privacy commissioner and the federal government in order to check a lot of different boxes, both from a communication standpoint and from a restitution standpoint in terms of providing credit protection and things like that. So with that case and all these cases, there are degrees of communications. If you've ever received a letter that talks about you being implicated or your information being compromised in a breach, which many of you have potentially, there's been a lot of them over the years. Any sort of widespread digital advertising that is mandated by a privacy commissioner, that one, when it came to that human resources company, that was a case. The Desjardins breach, you may have seen that as well. That was a big one that happened last summer, or I guess late last year in the fall, required widespread advertising. All that to say, more and more we're dealing with organizations that see data breaches and even just the storing of digital information on people, not only as a risk from a digital standpoint and from a legal standpoint, but also from a communication standpoint, because more and more of the implications of how you're going to communicate with those people if a record is compromised, those communications requirements are going up, and people's demands and expectations for organizational transparency are going up. All of that leads to more effective communications. And it doesn't just have to be digital either. So the national retailer that had a theft incident in 2019, we helped with that as well. I know it had to do with a laptop getting stolen out of the vehicle. It had former employee records, probably stolen. You can deduce that it was probably stolen just for the value of the laptop, but just the sheer fact that there are records on that, you have to go through a communication standpoint. So other case studies here that just have to deal with data security and privacy. A lot of them have to do with, I wanted to highlight those because of the shifting change that we're seeing in crisis and issues and the type of the type of incidents that we're supporting on, and just the fact that communications, especially in this world, 5 years ago, a data breach was considered a legal issue, and it was lawyers and it was IT personnel at the table. And I think due to, like I said, an increased desire from the public to see organizational transparency from the private sector, along with a shift in government that is towards transparency and towards communications, you've seen the Privacy Commissioner enlist a lot more communications requirements from organizations that suffer data breach. All that to say, communications is becoming a more prominent figure in this field, and as a result, we're seeing ourselves do a lot more work in this field as well.
Awesome, thanks, Andrew. And our third and final case study we're hoping to share with you today is the Halifax Convention Center. So in 2017, as I'm sure if you are local to Halifax, you will remember, something extraordinary happened, and that is that we opened doors to the biggest development in the province's history, which was the new Halifax Convention Center, located really in the heart of downtown Halifax. I'm sure you're familiar if you frequent Argyle Street at all, you know where Dirty Nellies is, and it lights up the downtown core blue now. So that is the Halifax Convention Center. So for them, we at National developed a new brand and narrative for them that established them as bold and modern and a vibrant meeting space where extraordinary connections are made with our people and our city. So not only are we selling HCC as a venue, but Halifax as a location for event planners. And if you see here on the left of the screen, you're seeing bright pink and blue and purple. This is bold. HCC has a personality, and the visual identity is unapologetic. So all of the promo materials, collateral for the center kind of follow this look and feel. And as well as developing a fully integrated campaign, we've designed plenty of different pieces for them, be it print ads, brochures, whenever they're showing up in publications in the event planning space, promo packages, direct mail campaigns, signage, banners, digital ads. We recently did, if you're familiar with the Rogers Square, where last year we all watched the Raptors win. There's those screens in Rogers Square, and they've got motion graphics down there too. So their thumbprint can be seen downtown Halifax very clearly. And with this new look and feel and brand, HCC has sparked new conversations, attracted new business opportunities to the city, to the region, and also to their beautiful brand new buildings. This is, whenever we have a chance to share case studies, this is definitely a point of pride for us. Something we're extremely proud to have been a part of and help them tell their unique story. And that's us, Amy. I know we want to open this time for some questions, and I know you have a list of questions over there with you if you want to get us started on that front.
Sure, thanks very much, and thanks for sharing those great case studies. It's just really nice to see public relations in action, you know, and really come to life and see what you're doing in your day-to-day. So that's great. So Morgan, can the participants type in their questions if they want?
Yeah, so at the bottom of the screen, sorry Amy, I'm cutting you off. The little Q&A function. If you have any questions for us at National, for the Mount, for Amy, about the PR program, the degree, the upcoming semester, feel free to use that little function at the bottom. It is anonymous. We will see your questions and answer live.
Thank you. So you did mention the upcoming term, and I know I have had a few questions from students about what's going on in the fall out at the Mount. So why don't I start with that question, and then we'll see where we go. So yeah, what a crazy year, right? Everything is different. At the winter term started off just as our regular way, and then like the rest of the world in March, we all went into the lockdown, and we moved our whole end of our winter term into online. So that was a little bit of a scramble, but I have to say the students overall were fantastic. Like they really kind of rolled with it, and the faculty members, it's a big challenge for us teaching from home and getting the technology up and running, but the term finished, not the way we had envisioned, but certainly in a way that I think students got a great deal of learning out of it and did a good job to wrap that up. So then as we came into the summer term, we were much, we had some experience, we knew what technology we were using, and so our summer terms are going very well online. Our fall term is going to be fully online, which means all classes will be delivered via distance. And we in our department, we have quite a bit of experience teaching on a distance platform, so it's not such a overwhelming endeavor for us. What we haven't done before is put the whole degree online, but we've had probably about half of the courses running online up till now. We have two forms of courses, synchronous and asynchronous. So some of our courses have an actual class time like this in a format like a Zoom meeting would have. We use a platform called Collaborate. It's part of Moodle Blackboard, if you're familiar with educational technology. And in Collaborate, we have a room just like this, and we can see each other in the video box, and we can share slides and have discussions. We do breakout rooms, that kind of thing. So for the synchronous courses, there's a certain time when you can log in. Your whole class meets at the same time, and you have regular instruction. And then we also have asynchronous courses, and those courses don't have a designated class meeting time. The work all happens asynchronously. So in your own time, whatever time you want to be working on the course, on the class Moodle platform, which is like a class website. So there's discussion forums and interactive assignments, and there can be group work, but it doesn't happen at a designated time, so people have a little more flexibility there schedule-wise. So we have both those types of courses running. It just depends which course you're looking for. And at the moment, we haven't had a final decision on what our winter term will look like, but we're hopeful by the time we get to winter, we'll have a little bit more back to normal and some restrictions will be lifted. So hopefully it won't be fully online, because we do like to have some face-to-face component as well. But overall, we're feeling pretty confident about it. We have our bookstore in our library geared for either online delivery or curbside pickup of books and whatnot. So we've got some of the bases covered there.
Wonderful. We do have a question that's just come in. We've got a question for Dr. Furlow, and then we've got two national questions, or three, sorry. So maybe I'll start with you, Amy. And
okay. What makes an exceptional PR student? Well, you're looking at some right here. So, so there you go. I would say an exceptional PR student has to have curiosity, because it really is a field where you have to be in problem-solving mode and curious about innovative ways to do things most of the time. So that would be a key element. It is also an exceptional PR student probably enjoys writing in all forms. So enjoys writing. You do have to do a little bit of academic writing, but mainly it's attention-grabbing writing that's clear and concise, and it could be a blog, it could be a paper, it could be a press release or media release, in all different forms. So writing is also another element. And I would say you have to like adventure, because those work terms can take you pretty far afield and expose you to a really interesting world. So I think those three qualities would be good. I'll hand it over to the national people for the national questions.
Yeah, Ashley, do you wanna take a stab?
Sure. We'll all go through. Well, I can speak to the question around: is there a need for PR professionals to understand the back end of computers, such as coding? No. There's lots of people who do. There's lots of people who have. I have a former a person that I went to school with who ended up going down that coding field. I would say PR is the most flexible degree that you could ever do. A lot of folks that I went to school with are not in a typical, I'm using air quotes, the typical PR background of, doing media, writing press releases, but it is the best degree to set you up for whatever you want to do, because the way that the Mount professors and your co-op work terms get you to think about and come at different problems, it really sets you up for whatever you want to do. As you would have heard me speak about, I went down a different path on that digital side. So I still don't, I very high level understand website code. I work with some brilliant folks who I say, make it do this, and they make it do that. I personally don't have to do that, but I can understand at a high level. And what I wish I did as a BPR student, such as extracurriculars, and what did you do that you loved as a student? I loved my work terms. I as well, although I stayed in Nova Scotia for all three of them, I again touched three very different industries to get a sense of what I liked, what I didn't like. I would have to say I liked it all. But volunteering, joining up with a nonprofit, doing whatever you possibly can do to get exposure to different things, reach out to people, talk to them, ask about their career paths, how they got to do what they're actually doing, what they like, how they've seen the PR world shift. So, I graduated in 2010. In the last 10 years, lots has changed. 100%. And I think Amy could speak to that as well. It's public relations is an ever evolving field, and we continue to evolve as the world evolves around us. So I loved doing volunteer work and just really getting out there and talking to people and seeing, what they love about what they do.
Thanks, Ashley. Andrew, we have a question here for you specifically.
Yeah, I saw that. It's about the work terms and stuff. So I will say for my work term in Calgary, I was lucky enough that my family lives in Calgary, so I was able to stay with them. I'll yield to Amy to talk a bit more about the help and support that the co-op office provides in terms of that. But I will say, that co-op, I remember feeling nervous because it was one that was not, I found it myself, which is an option that a route you can do through the co-op office, which I didn't know how I was going to feel. I kind of felt I'm going to a different city, even though I do know that the Mount has great relationships with a lot of co-op providers and partners in Calgary. But I do remember just feeling that even though I found this co-op outside of the postings, that I had incredible amount of support. I felt very well taken care of and integrated into the community that the Mount has. So I think everything was great about that. Accommodations, I can't speak to specifics on what the co-op office provides help with, but I can say that I know that just from my personal experience, I would say if you do get the opportunity to try a co-op somewhere else, I loved it. I think my work experience in both Calgary and then Toronto, which wasn't a co-op, but rather a job later on in my career, just gave me an amazing perspective. I think it's funny because I've ended up back in Halifax, of course, which is my home, but I think the experience that I gained in other markets allowed me to have a new appreciation for home, but also just the ability to test your skills and test your ability in different markets with different teammates in different situations, different clients. You'll find some things are different, but a lot of things are the same, and that can be reassuring in a lot of ways and help you learn and grow and all of them. So.
And to that point, I didn't really answer one of the first questions is what would you say are the top skills a PR professional should have entering the agency world? And my colleagues, feel free to chime in on that one. But I would say 100% being flexible, operating in the gray, as I like to say. We don't really operate in the black and white. Often clients come to us with I have this problem and we need to figure out how to solve it, whether that be from a digital perspective, from just a public affairs perspective, digital doesn't matter which of the service offerings. It's often quite gray, and we need to figure out how to answer it and all the background behind it, right? I mean, we're coming in as a consultant and not someone who works specifically for the firm, so there's often some background that we need to get caught up on. But being flexible, being curious, diving in, doing more every day and being curious. I think I would echo, or some of the partners of the firm would echo those statements as well. The being curious and diving in and just wanting to learn more and do more, and do great work, whether that is simply proofreading something or entering content into a website, or, you know, being part of a brainstorm to come up with something, you know, just because whenever you enter into an agency, you know, you're usually entering in a coordinator role, such as when Morgan joined us. But that doesn't mean that your opinions and your experiences and your knowledge and the brain that we have doesn't, I mean, everything is of value. Everyone is in this world with different backgrounds and different perspectives, and they are all so super valuable. And we always encourage everyone, whether you're there as a work term, as a coordinator, as a senior person, to always speak up, and we love having those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say I consider myself very early in my career, and joining the national team as a coordinator is excellent for me and where I'm at in my career right now, because I haven't really decided on a specialty, or, you know, I'm still very much figuring out what my strengths are and what I can do with those strengths. That's right. That's right. But because I'm in this role of coordinator, then I get to help out with, if the digital team needs a bit of help, then I can jump in. Or if there's a cool piece of work that's coming through public affairs and they need a hand, then I can raise my hand and be like, I've got some availability. I'd love to help out. So like Ashley said, being curious and also being willing to learn. Like, I know the moment I crossed the stage, got my degree in my hand, it was like, okay, I've just ticked the box of an undergraduate degree, but I feel like I'm just getting started. Like, I feel like my learning journey has just started in a new way, and it never ends. Somebody here asks, would a minor in psychology work well with a Bachelor in Public Relations? And I would have to say yes. Amy, I'd be curious about your thoughts on this. And I say yes because of my personal interest. So I am very much attracted to the advocacy piece of public relations. And mental health. So I did a lot of mental health work as an extracurricular while I was in university. And in terms of, so you think of social marketing campaigns where the point of the campaign is to change somebody's behavior. Well, if you're thinking about changing behavior, then that work in psychology, or that knowledge you have in psychology, can really be helpful in thinking about or doing the research that comes before planning and implementing the campaign. So I think it doesn't hurt, and if it's an area of interest, then even better.
Yeah, I totally agree. We actually have a number of students who are doing minors in psychology, and then, you know, some students are doing minors in other areas. We try to encourage the PR students to follow their passion. That's our advising path. However, psychology is particularly compelling because a lot of the theory in public relations is related to psychological theory. And it kind of stems back to, so Sigmund Freud, famous psychiatrist, psychologist, his nephew, Edward Bernays, is a historical figure in North American public relations anyway, and was very famous for developing some of the background information and approaches we still use today in persuasive communication. So there's a really strong and historical connection to that field as well, for sure. Maybe while I'm here, I'll just answer that. I think there was a question about co-op placements. Can they be abroad? Yes, they can, but they would be what we call your own job search, which is what Andrew described. So in that situation, if you want to work outside of Canada, there won't be postings like on the job board for that. But if you find a position, you send the job description from your potential employer to the co-op office. They and I review, or whoever's the chair at the time will review the job description. And if it meets the criteria of what a public relations student should be doing, then we approve the job description, and then you can start your work term there. So it has to fulfill the same time requirements and meet the requirements of whichever level of work term you're on. So first, second, or third. But then certainly you can do that. And our international office does help with if you require visas or other documentation to work abroad, you can do that. We've had students do work terms in the United States. I can remember someone did their first work term at Disney World one year. We've more recently found people are going to Europe. So we just had someone last year do a work term in Switzerland with a communication research firm. We've had a number of students go to the UK. So, Australia. Somebody went to Australia a few years ago. So that's totally doable. And as far as accommodation and support, what the co-op office does is connect you with other PR students who are either just finishing work terms or have experience living in the town that you're going to or the city you're going to. So back in the day when I did my work terms, I also did the BPR program some time ago, which shall remain nameless. But anyway, I did a work term out in Ottawa, and basically they just connected me with the who was in the PR position that I was going to, and that group of students rented apartments, and we just switched over leases. So I subletted from them. So where we have in cities where we have a large number of work placements or a number of students or grads, we just do that. And otherwise, we can connect you with employers who might be able to assist with accommodation, that kind of thing. For sure.
Wonderful.
Oh, and this last question, that must be for you folks at National. Are you required to travel to
Yes.
client sites? I'll leave that to you.
Yeah. So right now, not often because of COVID, everything is digital. But yes, oftentimes we do travel to client sites. There are some times where a client may be across the country or maybe in another country. So those don't happen as frequently, but obviously anytime that we can go and be in an office and be meeting our clients and be meeting their colleagues that we're working with, it is always very beneficial to building those relationships in which our work is built on.
I see this next one is, I love writing, but don't enjoy social media. Is social media a big part of your daily tasks? So I'm going to say social media is, I think, pretty well part of all public relations roles, although to different extents. I mean, some people more than others. And so I think you would not be alone. There are a number of people who like writing. Some people only like writing in social media and don't like writing in other formats. What do you think, panelists?
I can.
Go ahead,
I would
Andrew.
just say quick. I was just going to say quickly. So the team that I work with very closely, the main mandate of that team is to quantify and analyze social media data and look at a bunch of social media data points and essentially make communications recommendations based on that data. So a lot of my job is analyzing social media data, and I don't have an Instagram because I just don't really like social media. So I'd say I think that there's an opportunity to if you enjoy doing something, I enjoy looking at those data points, and I enjoy seeing how they create a puzzle that can then lead towards communications recommendation. But for me, my personal life, I'm just not a big social media person. So I think there's certainly room for both of those things. I just wanted to add that in before. Ashley, you can go.
No, I totally agree, Andrew. I am on social media. It is a part of my tasks from I need to know the platform. I need to know what the platform is and does and who it talks to, who we can reach with it, because it is a large part of helping to build an integrated marketing campaign and that digital strategy piece. But it really depends on the role that you take on. I would say knowledge of social media, the impact that it has, the importance in everyone's lives is so important. That doesn't mean that you have to have a social channel on every platform, be posting on it every day, but you need to know the ins and the outs of it.
So the next one, maybe I'll take that next. It says, would it be better to work after completing your bachelor degree in PR or continue with the master's? So from my perspective, we have students who do both. who have done both of those options. Typically, I encourage students after they graduate in their BPR to work for a little while to get some work experience, because I think it helps focus where you want to do your deeper research in the master's degree. So you're probably going to write a thesis or do a major research project. And if you've been out in the work world for a little while, you might have had the opportunity to kind of find the area, the niche that you want to really dig deep into. That being said, we have students who go right from one to another and enjoy that and do very well too. So I guess it's kind of a personal decision on that one. And the next one is market research a big part of public relations? Well, I'm going to say yes to that, but I'll turn it over to our agency people and see what they
Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, I think a variety of different areas of research. I think very recently, our team has invested a lot in traditional market research. So actually setting a baseline in terms of public opinion or public sentiment and deploying a campaign or tactics and seeing how that baseline changes. For a longer time, we've relied on what we call in our office desk research, or research that we can pull together using either social media analytics tools. Social media is great because it's essentially it's a bunch of data that already exists that you can throw a query at and see if your hypothesis is confirmed or not, and you don't have to. It's very quick, it's agile, it's cheap to do. So that's why the type of research we've relied on for quite a while. I think more so lately we've started to see the value, to your point, of that traditional survey-based market research that really set specific baselines for certain questions being asked. Yeah, so to answer that question in a long-winded way, yes, very important.
All right, maybe I'll just take the next question I see here, which is how long does it typically take to complete a master's? Well, we have 2 master's degrees in our department. We have a Master of Public Relations, which is what we call course-based programs. So you complete the courses related to the program, and your final course requires a major research paper, but it's done in that term. So course-based programs are typically quicker to finish because you don't have the thesis to write, which is sort of a longer term project. And if you do the MPR program with us, you can finish it in 1 year, 12-month year, like in 3 terms, you can finish it. The Master of Arts in Communication is a thesis-based program. And if you were doing that full time, like not working at the same time that you were taking the program, it would take 18 months to finish going full out, because the thesis takes a little bit longer. That being said, most of our students are taking the program while they work. We have a lot of professionals, PR professionals, taking the program while they're still at work. So on average, I would say most of our students take about 3 years to finish because they're not doing full-time courses all the time. That maybe was too much information. A year or 18 months, I could have said, but there, you have the whole story. All right, so where do you see the PR field going post-COVID? Oh my gosh, I'm going to turn this one over to the industry expert.
That's a great question. And Andrew and Morgan, definitely interested in your thoughts here. I would say the importance of PR post-COVID is as important as it has always been, with changing regulations and changing everything, communicating with our audiences in a clear and concise way in the channels where we need to reach them is the most important. Making sure that everyone understands what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and how your business is changing, and the implications for your business is so important. So it will continue and even become more important, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would echo that. I would say I think where the general public puts their trust is somewhere that's going to be interesting. I think trust in institutions like government and like media not just because of COVID, but because of a lot of socially relevant topics that have played out over the past year. That's going to be interesting to see. I think transparency is more important than ever. Certainly owning up to certain ways and being very honest about organizational and corporate roles and the fabric of society in ways that may not have been evident but now are. I think that's all things that have come in, not necessarily related to COVID, but just where we're at right now. Specific to COVID, I think the industry is going to change in the way that a lot of industries will. I'm sure education is the exact same way, in sense of things that might have been on the horizon like 5 or 7 years are now being accelerated to having to be now. So things like we're holding all of our meetings, we're holding all of them virtually, and that may not have been a reality that played out until another 5 years, but we're doing it now. So I think things like that are going to be much more rapid. But yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot, our organization, but other organizations figuring out how to collaborate in the best way, especially when we're all working from home and digitally. So I feel like we're going to become experts at collaborating from home. On a lighter note, I'm interested about face-to-face meetings. I know we have all these technologies and digital abilities to connect online, but we all know that face-to-face is still the most powerful and the most meaningful. So I'm looking forward to getting back together with clients, but I feel like PR post-COVID, we won't be shaking hands with clients anymore. So we're gonna have to come up with a way to welcome and engage with our clients that isn't a handshake. I think it might be the elbow. So that's on my mind.
Great. Thank you, everybody. So I'm just conscious of the time because I know we said we would wrap up at 2:30. I see a quick question just at the top of the chat box. Can the BPR be finished in 4 years? Yes, it is a 4-year degree. If you're a transfer student, it could be in 3. And if you have other questions, or if we didn't get to your questions, I think, Morgan, maybe in the next slide, we have my email there. There it is. So if you have other questions, or if you think of something after we've signed off here, please email me, amy.thurlow@msvu.ca, or go to our website, msvu.ca/PR. Take a look there, and I would be happy to answer your questions. And if your questions are national related, I will send them on to our panelists here and see if they could fill you in. Thank you very much, everybody.
I was just going to say, Amy, if anyone has specific questions for us or wants to further the conversation just about, path, feel free to find us on LinkedIn and connect with us. We're always happy to answer questions. I think that's one thing that is across the board for any MSVU alum is we are always happy to have a conversation and talk and answer questions. So do please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn to all of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much, Ashley. And thank you to all the panelists. Gee, it's really a pleasure talking with you today and talking PR with you folks today and seeing you and hearing about your work. It's just wonderful. I really appreciate it. And thanks to our guests for coming as well.
Thanks so much for having us, Amy.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.